anything but a One Tree Hill sequel. One Tree Hill is back, baby! Today we are going to be talking about some very exciting news. One Tree Hill is coming back. It's getting a sequel. But unfortunately, not everyone is that excited about it. There was a lot of mixed thoughts, a lot of different dialogue going on online about that. So today we are going to dive into everything we know about the sequel, why fans are upset, and some of the responses that I have heard thus far and some of the conversations that have been taking place. So let's get into it. But before we do, I just want to say, hi, my name is Marissa, and welcome to my channel. This is Life from Mars. Welcome, stay a while. Why don't you? Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, leave me a little comment, let me know what you think about all this, and let's continue with the show. Yes, One Tree Hill, the iconic CW WB show that ran from 2003 to 2012 for a whopping 9 seasons and has since been an absolute cult classic, garnered so many fans even still today. It's still streaming on Hulu, and people just cannot get enough of One Tree Hill, and guess what? I'm one of them, okay? I'm one of them. I love One Tree Hill. So you can imagine that I was extremely excited to hear that it was getting a sequel, not a reboot, a sequel, okay, which we are going to get into the differences between those two. There is a difference. So we are going to talk about everything we know so far about the sequel, and also some of the mixed reactions that people have been having online, because I gotta say, it's been kind of brutal.
They're kind of pissed about this.
For those of you who are not aware, though I'm sure most of you are, it was insanely popular at the time, okay? I mean, there is a ridiculous amount of episodes. This was back in the time where, you know, seasons had like 24, 22 episodes. So there's a ton of episodes of One Tree Hill, and so we had a lot of time to really love the show, love the place where it took place, Tree Hill, North Carolina, and all of its iconic characters. So, you know, there's a reason that people felt so bonded to this show. Now, the premise of the original One Tree Hill show is about two brothers, Lucas and Nathan Scott. Now, they have the same father, Dan Scott, who's pretty much the villain of the show throughout. He is just like this giant narcissist who basically got Lucas's mom pregnant, okay, and then ditched them, left them. This was when they were in high school, okay, so got Lucas's mom pregnant in high school and ditched her, went to college to get some like basketball scholarship. Get my head in the game. It's a basketball show, by the way. That's like a major thing. And he goes to college to get this scholarship, and then ends up meeting Nathan's mom, pretty much immediately getting her pregnant. And because he already was a deadbeat dad once, and Deb, who is Nathan's mom, her family was rich, so he figured, you know what? Okay, I'll raise this kid because this lady's rich. So he basically ends up staying with Nathan's mom and raises Nathan, but pretty much completely does not acknowledge Lucas. And not only does he not acknowledge Lucas, but he kind of is an active antagonist in his life. He's constantly hating on him, getting Nathan to bully him and diminishing him as if this is literally not also his son. Now, like I said, the whole kind of story of the show, or at least at first, was that it was these two brothers coming together and, you know, learning to love each other and kind of uniting in their hate against their extremely evil, extremely narcissistic, borderline psychotic, okay, if you know, you know, but also sometimes hilariously great father, Dan Scott. Now, this was the original premise of the show, and this is going to be really important as we kind of get into talking about the sequel. Now, there is a couple of other characters that are major players in One Tree Hill. Most people will tell you that there is the core 5 of One Tree Hill, okay? So in the original seasons, which are pretty much widely considered to be the best seasons 1 through 4 are probably the fan favorites, there is 5 main characters. So you have Lucas and Nathan Scott, okay, played by Chad Michael Murray, who plays Lucas Scott, and James Lafferty, who plays Nathan Scott. And then you also have Haley James, who later becomes Haley James Scott after she gets married to Nathan Scott. She is Lucas's childhood best friend, grew up with him in Tree Hill. She is also one of the major characters. And her and Nathan, like I said, they end up getting married in high school, but they are probably, I would say, arguably some of the most favorite iconic characters of the show. They're definitely the iconic relationship of the show because they stayed together through all 9 seasons, guys, which is insane because I feel like that is unheard of, especially now. But even back then, you just did not see shows that ran that long where a couple was actually like strong and healthy and stayed together like that. Okay, so they are Naley, that's their ship name, and people absolutely love them. Okay, so those are 3 of the main characters. The other 2 main characters are going to be major players in this discussion as well, and that is Brooke Davis and Peyton Sawyer. Now, Brooke Davis and Peyton Sawyer, they are both cheerleaders. When we first meet them, they are cheerleaders at Tree Hill High. They are cheering on the basketball team where Lucas and Nathan are playing basketball. Like I said, it's a basketball show, okay, you know, hoop-de-hoop. And so they are cheerleaders supporting the Tree Hill Ravens, and they kind of get intertwined into their lives as well. Basically, Lucas has this horrific, okay, if you watch the show, you know, he has this horrific love triangle going on with Brooke and Peyton, okay, where he's originally really into Peyton, but then Peyton doesn't want him, so he starts talking to Brooke and then realizes he actually really likes Brooke, and then he cheats on her not once, but twice. It
sucks because Peyton's here.
With Peyton, her best friend, by the way, okay? Brooke and Peyton are supposed to be best friends.
You are so my best friend.
So there's this horrific love triangle that's going on that really just makes you hate Lucas. Like, if you know, you know. And it's just a mess. Okay, so these are our core 5 characters. And it's just a shit show because they are constantly going through horrible things, and there's just kind of like no therapy and also no parental supervision. And you know, they don't always handle things the best, okay? Now, a lot of the crazy plot lines can definitely be chalked up to just lazy writing and also the horrific showrunner, which we will get into more detail on in a little bit. But I just want you guys to understand kind of the basics of the main characters of the show, at least for the first few seasons, and what people loved about the show, because that is kind of one of the major points in contention when we're talking about this sequel. And I know a lot of you guys have already seen One Tree Hill, but you know, just consider this a little refreshment. Now, that being said, for the first 6 seasons, these were the main characters, okay? We had the core 5. Again, it was Lucas Scott, Nathan Scott, Haley James Scott, and then Brooke Davis and Peyton Sawyer, okay? So these 5 were the main characters for the first 6 seasons of the show. Now, after season 6, Lucas Scott and Peyton Sawyer left the show, okay? And it has since been revealed that they were actually not invited back again because of said super problematic showrunner, and so it wasn't really their fault, but regardless, they were not on the last 3 seasons of the show, okay? So seasons 7, 8, and 9 did not have Peyton and Lucas in them at all. So what that means, obviously, is that Lucas and Peyton were not involved in any of the plot lines towards the end of the show. So at the end of the show, where the show would be picking up from, they were not in it at all. And yes, Brooke and Peyton were best friends for those first 6 seasons, but Peyton did not go to Brooke's wedding. Okay, this is canon. They were really not talking anymore as far as we know. Haley was still corresponding with Lucas. She would write him letters and stuff, but really we did not hear much about Brooke and Peyton, like, at all. They did make some kind of excuse that their daughter was sick because, spoiler alert, sorry, but this is also relevant. Peyton and Lucas end up getting married, okay? After their whole ridiculously insane problematic love triangle with Brooke, they end up being endgame, they get married, and they have a baby, and they literally ride off into the sunset on their exit at the end of season 6, okay? So it is canon that they are married and that they have a child together. So rounding out everything I've just said, the basic show is about these 2 brothers, Lucas and Nathan Scott, and their insane father and all of the trauma that they gave him. It's about how they play basketball and how they learn to love each other. And Nathan and Haley are like the heart of the show, the fan favorites. Everyone absolutely loves them. Still to this day, they are my favorite TV couple ever. They are so freaking cute, so healthy, and so loyal to each other. And it's just...
I look at Nathan and Haley and somehow I feel safer.
Makes me cry. And also Nathan Scott.
Is it getting hot in here?
Probably my favorite ever male TV character, which is crazy because in the beginning, he is the antagonist. Like, he was the villain in the first couple episodes of the series, and you want to hate him, but you end up literally loving him so much and kind of hating Lucas when originally it was the other way around. So that being said, we have these two brothers, and that is the heart of the show. The main couple of the show, yes, Lucas and Peyton end up together, but I would still argue that it is Nathan and Haley because, again, they stay together through the entire show, and there's no doubt that they are the fan favorite couple, okay? Now, we also, of course, have Brooke, who people love her, and I love Brooke Davis
Because the world loves me.
she is such a good character. She's so strong, and she went through so much, and she did not deserve that. And she does end up having an endgame as well. His name is Julian Baker. They end up meeting at the end of season 6, and they do get married, I think, in season 8, and they have twin sons, okay? So they have 2 babies. Nathan and Haley end up having another daughter, so they have a son, the one that they had in high school, and then another daughter. And then we also have Sawyer Scott, who is Peyton and Lucas's daughter, okay? So those are kind of like the children of the core 5 that we will theoretically be focusing on in the sequel. Now that we kind of know everything that happened in the show, at least the most basic information for the context of the discussion here, let's talk about the sequel. So this is what we know so far. It was announced on August 30th by Variety. It was actually leaked, apparently, according to the cast members, but it was leaked, it was dropped that One Tree Hill is officially getting a sequel series that is going to be coming to Netflix. Now, what we know so far is that this project is being spearheaded by Sophia Bush, aka Brooke Davis, and Hilary Burton Morgan, aka Peyton Sawyer. Okay, so again, these 2 best friends who were best friends for the first 6 seasons, they are the ones that are kind of spearheading this project and the ones that are confirmed so far that are definitely going to be reprising the roles and are going to be in it. Now, this is super exciting because honestly, we love Brooke Davis and we love Peyton Sawyer and we love them together. They're so cute. But this is where the issues and the criticisms kind of start to come in. The first kind of really big issue that a lot of people have with this announcement is that not all of the cast, not even all of the core 5, have been announced to be returning. Now, this is a problem for several reasons. Let's start with Chad Michael Murray, aka Lucas Scott. Now, as I just mentioned, Lucas Scott and Peyton Sawyer end up together, they get married, and they have a baby. Now, what we know about this sequel is that it is going to be taking place 20 years after the events of the original series, and it is mainly going to be following the children of the main characters who are now teenagers and their kind of adventures through life and, you know, their navigation of all of the similar topics like love and loss and, you know, trauma and grief and all of the things that the original series explored. And we're also going to be following the parents as, you know, they navigate their lives and, you know, navigate parenting these kids, these teenagers who were once in their position, right? So that being said, it is not a traditional reboot, which would be where there's completely new characters. That would be as if like we're going back to Tree Hill, but there's a totally new set of characters. We're getting the same characters and it is the same storyline, just set in the current time, right? Now, getting back to Chad Michael Murray, aka Lucas Scott. All of the articles, all of the press is saying that he is definitely confirmed to not be returning, okay? They have not really said anything about any of the other cast members, but they have said that he is definitely not returning. Now, I do want to say that this is not an official statement that has been made by Chad or his team, so who knows, okay? Like, these initial reports could be wrong, but I do think it's a little bit weird that every single report mentioned that he was not going to be reprising his role. That makes me feel like they did want to go out of their way to make sure people know now he's not coming back, okay?
Are you kidding me?
This is kind of crazy because we are getting Peyton back, but we're not getting her husband and the father of her daughter, Lucas, back. Now, a lot of people are upset because they literally went through jumps and hoops to try to get Peyton and Lucas together, and a lot of people are big Leighton fans. That's their ship name. You know, people love Leighton, and even I like Leighton, mainly because, I mean, they were kind of forced upon us, but I never really liked how the relationship developed and, you know, the ways in which they hurt Brooke to get together because, again, he cheated on her multiple times and they both went behind her back to be together and lied to her. And also, it just always felt kind of trauma bondy for me because Peyton was constantly going through trauma and Lucas just always wanted to be there to save her, and I don't know, it never felt like super, super authentic to me. It did feel a little bit forced, and so for me, I never loved them as a couple, but definitely towards the end, I was obviously rooting for them because it was impossible not to, okay? So a lot of people are really upset because they made a whole fuss to get them together and a whole fuss about how they were supposed to be endgame, but he's not even gonna be in the show.
That doesn't make sense.
So what does that mean? If he's not gonna be in the show, they either got divorced, he's a deadbeat dad, and he's not there for his kid, he's just never gonna be there, or he died.
Rest in peace.
Now, I personally think that this is probably the more likely way that they will deal with this. I think this for a couple of reasons. One, it is known in the show that he has a heart condition, okay? He ends up actually having to stop playing basketball because of this heart condition, and it actually almost killed his father as well, Dan Scott. He actually had to get a heart transplant to prevent himself from dying. So it would not be a stretch to say that, you know, Lucas died from the heart condition, and I actually think that that really could be a good place for them to kind of pick up the story because, you know, Peyton and Lucas left Tree Hill. Tree Hill is the city that this takes place in, okay? That's why it's called One Tree Hill. You get it? I think that would actually make sense if Lucas died from the heart condition, and frankly, I hate to say it, but I kind of am not upset that he's not coming back just because, like I said, like his character was just so low-key insufferable in my opinion. Yes, he was hot.
You're lucky you're hot.
I mean, this was Chad Michael Murray in the peak of his 2000s hotness. Like, he was super hot. And he's a really good actor. And I did like Lucas for the first couple seasons, but he was just like, oh my God, like he was just so not a good lover, like for sure, a good friend, but a very, very not a good lover. And for that reason, I just can never forgive him for what he did to our girl, Brooke Davis. So personally, and I have heard this kind of echoed by a couple of different fans, I would not be devastated if they killed off Lucas, honestly, but some people would be, because again, they made such a fuss in the original series to establish Leighton as this like endgame couple that it's kind of crazy that she would be coming back without him. Now, that being said, I do think that this leaves room for her other interests, like Jake Jagowski, who I loved. He was one of her interests before she was really serious about Lucas, or kind of in between, I guess, while he was dating Brooke. And I actually really liked Jake, and he even actually commented, the actor that played Jake, Brian Greenberg, actually commented on Hilarie Burton's post about it. And he was like, Jayton, ? Which was their ship name, Jake and Peyton. And I was just thinking, I'm ready for Jayton to be endgame. Honestly, I think they were a better couple anyway, but that's just my opinion. So that's the first thing a lot of people are upset about. They're thinking, how can you have One Tree Hill without one of the Scott brothers? And that is a perfect segue to the next point. We're still missing the other Scott brother. Now, it is so important, again, to remind you guys, they are the core of the show. Like, at the end of the day, this show is about the Scott brothers. It is not about anyone else, really, other than the Scott brothers. That is the whole kind of premise of the show. That is the backbone of the show, and everything really revolves around them. I mean, they are the main characters, in my opinion. And I mean, even like in France, for example, the show is actually called Les Frères Scott, which means like the Scott brothers. It's literally called the Scott brothers in France. So I don't really know what else to say other than the show is about them. Now, we know that we don't have Lucas Scott coming back, so okay, that's okay. Again, he wasn't even there for the last 3 seasons anyway, but what about Nathan Scott? One of the fan favorite characters, probably one of the favorites of most people, along with Brooke Davis. What about him? He is still not confirmed to be coming back either, and neither is Haley James Scott, played by Bethany Joy Lenz, okay? And this is kind of the next facet of the controversy surrounding this sequel. So it is well known by a lot of people in the community that there was a major falling out that occurred between Hilarie Burton Morgan and Bethany Joy Lenz. Now again, Sophia and Hilary are the ones that are really leading this project, and so you can imagine that a lot of people are concerned that because Hilary and Joy allegedly have this beef going on, that Joy is not going to be invited to return to this sequel. Now, if Joy does not return, that more than likely means that James Lafferty, aka Nathan Scott, will also not be returning, because I mean, if they're gonna break up Lucas and Peyton, they cannot break up. Nathan and Haley. I mean, that would just ruin the show. I mean, I'm not trying to be dramatic, but if they broke up Nathan and Haley, people would riot. People would burn down the Netflix headquarters.
You wouldn't dare.
Like, they cannot break up Nathan and Haley, and I think that they know that. Like, they know that they could not break them up because they are the iconic couple of One Tree Hill. So they absolutely cannot break up Nathan and Haley. But the question is, will they be coming back or not? Because for a lot of people, it will not feel like Tree Hill unless they come back. They were there for all 9 seasons, and honestly, they are really like the main characters. You know, if there's the core 5, there's also the core 3, which are the real core characters, which is Nathan, Haley, and Brooke. And so we have Brooke, but if there's no Nathan and Haley, it's gonna feel like a very different show. And I am personally really hoping that they are going to still be there despite this beef that supposedly exists between Hilarie and Joy. And for those of you guys wondering what this beef is, it's essentially about a conflict of, I guess you could say, beliefs. Now, personally, I definitely resonate with Sophia and Hilarie's beliefs a lot more than I resonate with Joy's alleged beliefs. There's a lot of allegations that Joy has some very problematic conservative beliefs. Now, this is not confirmed. These are all, you know, rumors at the end of the day because none of these people have actually spoken out about that. But she does follow a couple of pages that are definitely problematic, and it would not be a huge shock to me, to be honest, even though I don't want to believe it, and I didn't want to believe it at first because she was in a religious cult for many years, and she's actually writing a book about that right now. So, you know, somebody who's already prone to extremism, it does not shock me that she might still have some problematic extreme beliefs. Now, that being said, I do think that it's important to kind of separate somebody's political beliefs from their art, especially when they are not causing anybody else harm, right? If you want to be toxic, not that it is okay or that she should be celebrated. I really want to be clear about this, that if she were to say these things publicly, I think it would absolutely be valid that she be called out on that. But she has not done that as of right now, right? These are all allegations. And so in my mind, I just think, you know, all of these other people who have problematic beliefs in Hollywood are allowed to work on their shows. Why should she not be allowed to work on her show? Especially when, again, she is such a fan-beloved character, and she is one half of one of the most iconic romantic relationships on television of all time. And so for me, I really, really hope that they can put their differences aside and, you know, they can find a professional working middle ground and find a way to be able to get them on the show, because it just would not be the same without Nathan and Haley. I truly, when I heard that the show is coming back, that was one of the things I was most excited for because I just love them so much. And, you know, again, I'm not one to be like a super fangirl over things, but I absolutely love Nathan and Haley. Like, I will die on that hill. Nathan Scott is the best husband ever, and they're such a cute couple, and I would love, love, love to continue following their journey in the reboot. So just saying, I really hope that they can make up. A lot of people are saying that it's like confirmed, or, you know, they're discussing as if like it's already confirmed that they're not coming back, but it has not been confirmed. Again, this information was leaked about the sequel. So to me, that means they have not finalized all the details, and it's very likely that they are still trying to work out who is going to be in the show, the contracts involved, all of those details. So it does not shock me that they're not automatically going to just confirm that the whole cast is coming back. And Sophia and Hilary actually did both post about, you know, this sequel on their Instagrams, and they did respond to comments, both of them individually, saying that they did want the whole cast to come back. So in my mind, that obviously includes Haley and Nathan because they are some of the most important characters. Now, that being said, there's also other things that people are a little bit concerned about, and I think that that stems from kind of like a lot of people not loving Sophia and Hilary as individuals and maybe even their dynamic together. Now, it is pretty publicly widely known that they are very close in real life. I don't think that they were actually as close during the filming of the show for reasons that we are going to get into in a second. But it does seem that they are extremely close now. They are always praising each other. They're always supporting each other. And actually, Hilarie, Joy, and Sophia have a rewatch podcast of One Tree Hill that is still going on right now. They're in season 7 right now, and it's called Drama Queens. Highly recommend it if you are into the show. It is so good. Some of their commentary is so good. But a lot of people do not love it. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, Hilary and Sophia definitely are very vocal about their social and political beliefs, and they oftentimes kind of come from that belief system when they're discussing the show. So, you know, they'll call out what they believe to be problematic or misogynist or, you know, different things like that. And I think that a lot of fans feel like they are ruining the show. Personally, I don't really feel like that. I've listened to almost every episode of the podcast, and it has never bothered me that much. One thing I will say that I kind of agree with that I've heard other people say is that I feel like sometimes they kind of come off a bit self-absorbed when they're discussing the episodes. Like, they focus so heavily on Brooke and Peyton that they kind of don't necessarily touch as much as they could on the other amazing things in the episodes. Now, that is not every episode, but there are definitely some times where they will go off on tangents about, you know, their experiences behind the scenes or the funny things that happen behind the scenes, and it's like they barely even talked about the episode, and it just kind of rubs people the wrong way. And I think it comes off, like I said, a little bit self-absorbed, okay? And again, I do not know these women personally, and actually overall, I think they're really cool. They come off very badass, cool, you know, love them. I feel like I would personally probably like being friends with them, but to a lot of people that do not align with their political and social beliefs, it kind of rubs them the wrong way, you know? And I think that's understandable. And another thing is that they have consistently said throughout the podcast that the real love story of the show is Peyton and Brooke. And a lot of people don't like this because, again, most people will probably tell you that the iconic love story of the show is not Peyton and Brooke. Because, again, Peyton did not even go to Brooke's wedding. She was not there for the birth of her kids. She was not there for so many of the major life events that she had. And even when they were friends, she was not always the best friend to her. She really wasn't. She, in fact, betrayed her many times, okay? They kind of had a toxic relationship for a part of the run of the show. Now, again, this is different than the personal relationship that they had, right? Sophia and Hilary could have absolutely adored each other, and it seems like they really do, and it seems like they are such good friends, and I love that for them. But I think that, you know, it can be easy to kind of get lost in that and forget the actual characters and what really happened on the show. Because, I mean, as somebody who's watched the show a couple of times now, they are not the love story of the show. Not even by a landslide, in my opinion. I mean, I would put multiple actual couples before I would even think to put, you know, two characters like Brooke and Peyton together as the love story. They're one of the iconic friendships of the show, but if we're going to pick two characters who, like, really the story is about them that are not romantic characters, it is the Scott brothers. It is Lucas and Nathan. It is about them coming together and learning to love each other, and they have this beautiful arc where they literally go from enemies and absolutely hating each other and having all of this trauma and, you know, like, just all of this tension against each other, and they end up having this super beautiful brotherly bond at the end of the show. And that is, like, in my personal opinion, way more powerful than the relationship that was ever formed or existed between Peyton and Brooke. Now, that being said, they did have a beautiful female relationship. They did have a lot of really cool moments. They, you know, were there for each other in a lot of really key moments, especially in the difficult things that Peyton went through. But I don't know. I think that a lot of people, probably myself included, although I don't feel so dramatically about it as maybe some people do, think that they really overemphasize the importance of the relationship between their two characters. And I think that people really question whether that will be enough to kind of restart the show with, because it's not that strong. And again, Peyton was not even there for the last 3 seasons. So people are kind of like, how are you going to base One Tree Hill off just these 2 characters, one of which was not even there for the last 3 seasons, and you're going to leave out the other 3 main characters of the show, right? So, you know, that is not great. And, you know, again, a lot of people don't agree with their political beliefs, their social beliefs. I've heard a lot of people saying, you know, oh, well, what if they wokeify the show? I mean, personally, I think that's ridiculous. I think that it needs to have some progress. I think it needs to have some diversity. And I think that, you know, the show aired during the early 2000s and it was very much reflective of that time. There was a lot of problematic episodes, comments, themes, you know, narratives that were portrayed. And I think that it definitely needs to be caught up to modern day. And I think that that will, you know, require some quote unquote woke narratives, and I personally find that refreshing. I don't think that's problematic. I'm actually excited to see that. I'm excited to see a Tree Hill in which we do not have fat shaming and you know, all of these horrible problematic things that we had in the early 2000s. Now that we've talked about kind of some of the things that people have been most upset about, I want to talk about some of the things I am personally excited for and kind of some of my personal opinions when it comes to all of this. The first thing I want to talk about is that we cannot discuss this sequel without talking about how beautiful it is that this story is being reclaimed after the horrific things that the cast had to endure at the hands of the original showrunner, Mark Schwahn. Now, Mark Schwahn was the original creator and showrunner of One Tree Hill, and he was exposed during the Me Too movement. Several cast members actually ended up writing an open letter discussing the horrors that they experienced at the hands of Mark Schwahn. They accused him of everything from emotional manipulation and emotional abuse to straight up physical abuse and sexual abuse, inappropriate touching, inappropriate comments, putting these women in extremely difficult and compromising positions, pitting them against each other, lying to them, manipulating them. I mean, it truly was an extremely toxic work environment, and that is very clear. And a big part of why they even decided to do the podcast in the first place, they have said, was because they wanted to reclaim the show and kind of, you know, undo some of the trauma that they had around the show, because for a lot of them, they did not really look back fondly on the experience because of all of the awful things that they had to endure. You know, this man kind of constantly looming over their shoulders. And so for me, I am so excited that they are getting the opportunity to kind of reclaim this show and restart it free from Mark Schwahn, right? Like, it is going to be executively produced by these women, by Hilary Burton Morgan and Sophia Bush, and actually also by Danielle Ackles, who played Rachel Gatina on the show. So she is apparently maybe also going to be coming back to the show, which is exciting because they kind of screwed over her character. I think they low-key like character assassinated her, because guess why? She didn't want to hook up with Mark Schwahn, apparently, and so he had to get revenge for that. But, you know, I do trust that they are going to bring a new breath of fresh air to the show, and it makes me really happy that they are going to get the opportunity to kind of, you know, redo the show, you know, kind of refresh their own experience. I'm really excited that they are going to get that opportunity, and I think that it honestly is probably long overdue. So I am definitely excited about that, and I don't think that enough people are talking about that. And I will say that, honestly, I'm actually excited about a lot of the things we found out about this show. I like that it's being produced by Netflix, although some people I know don't love that. I know that Netflix is kind of hit or miss, but it does seem that they have a really good producing team. And I have heard a lot of people say really good things about the writers that they have hired for the show. They have already announced the writers that they're using. And, you know, I know that they were definitely aware, I think, for the most part, of what fans did like and didn't like as far as the writing for the show. So, you know, I'm trusting the process. But yeah, I don't know. I think at the end of the day, I personally do trust them to do the characters justice. I do not think that they would sabotage the show just to be, you know, self-obsessed, because I think that they're both smarter than that. I think that people are not giving them enough credit for the fact that they both have had very successful careers, and, you know, that they have even managed to stay relevant for so long is impressive in Hollywood. And so I don't think that they're going to let this show be ruined. And I've seen so many people kind of have that worry, because I know that a lot of the times reboots and sequels can be, you know, underwhelming, and sometimes in some cases they can even kind of take away from the original source show because people feel like it's like, oh my god, you're ruining the lore. And One Tree Hill had a really good ending, so I can see where people would feel like it's kind of, you know, it's scary to be opening it back up to the possibility of messing up the narrative that people were really happy with. So I do think that they're gonna do the characters justice. I'm really excited to see Brooke Davis back. I'm really excited to see Peyton back. And frankly, I hope she's not held back by Lucas. That's just my take. I know a lot of people are not going to agree with that. It's probably a hot take, but for me, I kind of hope that Peyton does not have to deal with Lucas. If he comes back, great. I will be definitely interested to see their dynamic, especially again because we did not get them on the last 3 seasons. So that will be interesting to see them like all these years later as parents. And I also really hope that we do get Julian Baker back as well, which of course is Brooke's husband and her baby daddy, the father of her twins. He did make a post, Austin Nichols, who plays Julian Baker, he did make a post where he kind of hinted at the idea of him coming back. He basically posted a picture of him as Julian Baker, or a reel, and so a lot of people are like, oh my god, but what is this? Does this mean you're coming back? And to me, that reads as either I'm definitely coming back or I'm certainly interested in coming back. So that is good to see. I would love if at least one of those endgame couples gets to stay together. But like I said, you know, I am biased towards Nathan Scott and I just want to see him back. I really hope that Naley does sign on. I know that, you know, James does have another project going on. He has another show right now called Everyone Is Doing Great that he's actually doing with Stephen Coletti, who is also in One Tree Hill, played Chase Adams. And if you guys haven't seen that show, it is actually so good. I am not just saying that. It is so funny. And truly, I think that it is so underrated. It's on Prime Video, I think, right now, and also Apple TV. Apple TV and Prime Video, I think it's on. I watched it with a friend of mine because we were like, oh my god, we have to watch his new show. And it's actually so funny, guys. It's so well written, and I know that they're kind of trying to like build steam for their season 2 right now. So, you know, I know he's got that passion project going right now, so that may be a factor as well on whether he decides to, you know, sign up for this new show. But I do hope that it ends up working out. I hope that they can work through whatever scheduling issues or personal issues may exist there. And just please give the fans what we want. And what we want is Nathan and Haley. Like, please, we want the core 5 and at least the core 4. If we're gonna cut anyone, let it be Lucas. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry. They did that to him, okay? It's just the way it is. Anyway, I think that covers most of my main talking points and most of the kind of feedback and concerns that I've heard about the show and what people are thinking right now. Again, personally, I'm so excited. I really did not know if we would ever get any kind of, you know, reunion or sequel or reboot, and I'm so happy that we are getting one and that it's gonna have the original characters, because I really did not want to just have some random new characters. And I don't know, I trust Netflix, I trust Sophia and Hilary, and I trust the writers. And I'm really being optimistic that this is going to be one of those rare occasions where a sequel is going to be good and that fans will be happy. So those are my thoughts. I really hope that you guys were entertained and enjoyed this video. Please let me know your thoughts as well down below, because I feel like there's not really anybody talking about this on YouTube, so that's why I felt like I have to make a video about this. Let me know what you guys think. I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts. And of course, please do subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'm going to be continuing to make videos about this topic, about this sequel. I'm gonna do reaction videos once it comes out, and we'll kind of keep up to date on everything that's going on, the narratives, and like, you know, if they release more cast information, I will definitely do more follow-up videos. So if you like One Tree Hill or anything pop culture and, you know, just kind of like the vibes here, please do subscribe, join my little community, and help me make my dreams come true. But thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. You guys are real ones if you made it this entire way. I really appreciated it. Again, I would love to hear your thoughts, because I have just been scrolling through like Instagram comments and Reddit comments. So I really am interested to hear what you guys think, what your thoughts are. If you agree with me, if you disagree with me, let me know, and I will see you soon on the next one. Bye.